Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing a Jeep Grand Cherokee because Jeep just released some massive discounts on these Grand Cherokees. They're really trying to move some metal. Before we get in this video, I'm going to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Doug Smith Dodge Ram here in Spanish Fork for giving me some time with this Grand Cherokee. I'll include a link to their website in the description down below. Also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get into it. Powering this is a 5.7 liter Hemi V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 14 around town and then 22 on the highway with power outputs, being about 360 horsepower and then about 390 pound-feet of torque. Jeep, put this back in the regular Grand Cherokee. Please, please, please. Anywho, before we move on, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So I picked out a fully loaded Grand Cherokee, but the deals are on pretty much all of the Grand Cherokees. So it doesn't matter if you go loaded up or less loaded up, but I figured I'd do fully loaded because it's cool. Anyways, first off, I love the Grand Cherokee headlight design with the new Grand Cherokee. And this is the grille in general. Like, I think this is the best looking Grand Cherokee that they've ever made, just because of like the boxy style. It kind of has that, you know, luxury, but then also rugged off-road look. And this fully loaded one, of course, comes with these big fancy wheels. First thing I would do if I got one of these would be to replace those big fancy wheels with smaller off-road style wheels. Love the painted fender flare. You can see Grand Cherokee there on the side. Notice the blacked out mirror cap. And then if you take a few steps back, there's your side profile. It's a good looking rig. And then they, of course, copied Land Rover with the key fob. You've got your lock and unlock function. You got the remote start, the opening for the hatch. Got the Jeep logo. And pop that open. Now this is an L. This is the only way you can get the 5.7 Hemi, by the way. That's why I said that earlier. But yeah, you've got a decent amount of space behind the third row. Folding the third row down, you've got a real trunk at that point. And then you can see here for these seats to fold them down, raise them up, all of that. Got a little 12 volt there as well. And I like this. This is pretty cool looking. And if you press this, this will lower the hatch back down. And then look at that with the taillight design. I think that's pretty cool looking. See Summit down below, you got the Jeep badge, then you got all of your parking sensors. So yeah, overall, I mean, this new Grand Cherokee I think is a good looking car. And then you guys will probably be impressed with the interior. It's very luxurious. So we got like these sunshades here, got nice trim, look at the wood trim there. And then you've got all this fancy stitching extends to the bottom as well. This window control automatic. You can see with the seats. Pretty fancy. And there's of course good space with this. Here, storage pocket. We've got heated and ventilated seats for the second row. We've got our own climate zone and then more of this kind of like fancy trim throughout. And then headroom of course is good back here. And this leads us up front. So the fancy pants stuff continues. Actually, all the windows are automatic, which is nice. Mirrors power fold in, memory seats, massage seats, blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. And then here are the seats. This is cool with the headrest. Nice trim down the center. All of our adjustments on the side. See the light controls here as well. This is cool with the wood trim. And then you got like the stitching and everything on the dash. Quickly pop in. I like the sound of the doors when they close. It's got like a nice sound to it. Full digital gauge cluster with this Grand Cherokee. That's weird, it's not doing the startup animation. It must be a Jeep thing. Anyways, you got all your controls here on the steering wheel, including adaptive cruise control with lane centering. Oh, there we go. I did it. It exists. This also has a heads-up display, and then of course we've got a 360 camera system with this as well, and pretty quick response time with the screen. As you can see, it does take a second for some of the stuff to load up. Heated and ventilated seats. We've got our climate controls down below here, and then this is like the charging area. So you've got a bunch of charging ports and all of that. And then we've got all of our drive modes for both on-road and off-road use. This does have a 2-speed transfer case. It's just the dial shifter. And then the air suspension, you can raise and lower it. And then we've got this here for storage. And this is pretty cool. It's center console. It's nice. Passenger screen, which is totally overkill, but you know. Massaging seat for the passenger too. Camera rear view mirror, and then you got a fancy headliner. So you guys can see this is loaded up. And let's take a look at the window security. You can see about 64K is the base MSRP, 81,220 is the total MSRP. So yeah, this is expensive. This is not going to work for a lot of people. After discounts, this is going for like 10 grand off, so closer to about 70. But here's the thing. The Altitude package, which is basically just a Laredo with some blacked out stuff, still has 4x4 and all of that. Those sticker for around 47 to 51 range, and those, after the $10,000 in discount, are in the low 40s to high 30s. So you can now get a brand new, nice Grand Cherokee, right, with some nice options for less than 40 grand. So it hasn't been that way for a long time, so I think that's pretty cool. But let's drive this one. Let us drive the fancy Grand Cherokee, and I know a lot of you might be confused as to why I picked such a fancy Grand Cherokee to talk about discounts when, you know, even after discounts, this is still an expensive vehicle. And it's because I want to make a point that this Grand Cherokee, in my opinion, probably shouldn't exist. I'll explain all of it. So first off, let's just talk about the new Grand Cherokee. The new Grand Cherokee is really nice. I think it's a big improvement over the previous gen for a number of reasons. First off, you get, initially you got a complete powertrain carryover outside of the high performance powertrains, you know, the 6.4 Hemi and the Hellcat engine, but you got the 3.6 and the 5.7 carryover. And so those powertrains both proven to be reliable, good engines. And then you got a new body that not only looks better, but just drives better. Like, this is more comfortable with the ride quality. The interior is definitely more upscale. It's a nice car. It is a nice car. So, you know, all of that applies with the new Grand Cherokee. And so I think that the new generation, you know, big improvement in terms of what you get with this compared to the previous gen, but it also had a big price increase. Now, a big part of the reason why I had a big price increase is because of the packaging with the new Grand Cherokee. You know, they offer a lot more expensive models. Love this 5.7 Hemi. The 8-speed is just so smooth. So smooth. But yeah, this Summit Reserve L didn't exist with the previous gen. You couldn't get a 3-row Grand Cherokee with the previous gen. So jumping up to a 3rd row, that made things a little bit more expensive. And then adding this amount of tech to the Grand Cherokee also increased the price. And you know, some of this tech some people might like I think the camera rear view mirror, that's useful. That's a nice, useful bit of tech. But you know, the passenger screen and some of the other stuff that this has, superfluous, I would say. Doesn't need it. Does not need it, but it has it. So it's kind of an interesting setup. And that's what I'm talking about with this package, I think, being unnecessary. I don't think there's really a market. I mean, there's a few people that want, you know, a crazy loaded up Jeep like this, but for the most part, I don't think people that buy Jeeps really want this. They do want this 5.7 Hemi, 6.4 Hemi, right? People that buy Jeeps want that. But the rest of this stuff, the massaging seats and all that, I think it's just, that's not a Jeep buyer, right? Jeep's trying to, you know, ultimately get people from other brands, and you know, I just don't know if they're gonna go for the Jeep brand, because it's just, I love Jeeps, right? I own a Wrangler, but it's not the brand that you go to when you're thinking luxury, even though this is a full-blown luxury car. So I've said it in the past and I'll say it again. I think that Jeep should rehash the Grand Cherokee. I think they should just simplify the lineup. Get rid of, and I know that this is not gonna be popular with the CEO of a company, because, you know, the top line models are the most profitable. Get rid of the top line models. There doesn't need to be a Summit. There doesn't need to be a Reserve. There doesn't need to even the Overland is overkill. I would literally just, I mean, maybe if they still want to offer the Overland, fine. But put all this, if you want to do a fancy one, put all the fancy stuff in the Overland. So have Overland at the top, Limited, and then, you know, your blackout packages in all of these, right? Because people like sporty looking vehicles. Still have Trailhawk, and then have Laredo. Or if you don't want to call it Laredo anymore, call it Altitude, whatever you want to call it, right? And just 4 models, and make it more simple so that's a more affordable vehicle. I think that that would do really well. And you know, I think there's certain packages that they aren't making that they would do well. Like, for example, if they had a Laredo that was like base model Grand Cherokee, no options at all, just like power windows, power locks, climate control, backup camera, nothing else pretty much. and off-road tires, I think that would sell well, right? Have that, and you know, that's a Grand Cherokee that's, you know, sub $40,000. That would do really, really well, because there's a lot of people that love Jeeps and that live in, you know, even people that don't live in rural areas that aren't necessarily going to go off-roading all the time, but you know, the idea of a Jeep that's more daily drivable than a Wrangler, I don't know. Because the Trailhawk's really cool, but it's just so expensive. I rambled on a little bit too much in this video. I'm fasting today, so the brain's at like 50% capacity. But I think that I'm making some sense. So I think that these deals are really good on the low end for Grand Cherokee, like getting, you know, in altitude, 10 grand off MSRP. That's a really, like, sub $40,000 Grand Cherokee. That's solid, but I do still think that Jeep should thin out the Grand Cherokee lineup, focus on making a vehicle that's rugged, reliable, off-road capable, and affordable. And they will sell a ton of them. They won't make as much money per Grand Cherokee, but they'd sell more Grand Cherokees overall, and so then they would make up in volume. That's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you think.